Check them out. It's an interesting Twitter account. It's an interesting Twitter account, at Cafe and Diner. Very, very interesting. Dead Rabbit recommends at Cafe and Diner. Okay, just wanted to get that out there. Now we're going to move on to our main story. Our main story is a story of haunted mine shafts. Now, mines are creepy to begin with. They're basically big old holes in the earth. Of course, I mean, that's literally the definition of a mine. They're giant holes in the earth. And some of them we make, and some of them... do you make a mine? Do people see a mountain and go... I wonder what's in there, and start drilling into a mountain? Or do they find existing mines and go, hey, look, there's like this hole in this cave, let's make it bigger. Or let's start like taking our pickaxes and like knocking stuff off. I think it would probably take a lot of effort to have like a... I just realized I expect... For some reason, I assumed scientists would have access to Cobra Commander's drilling machine. I don't think those really exist. I don't think there's really like a vehicle, a tank, with a Cobra logo on it that has a giant drill in the front, and they're like, let's mine, boys. I don't know why I thought that was real for a second. They're always, I think they're almost always holes that are already in mountains. I don't think they're using 1980s cartoon technology to mine. But anyway, so we're going to Bodie State Historic Park in California. Now, in 1902, there's this mine that people were mining for a while, but in 1902, these dudes were mining it, and for whatever reason, maybe in 1902 they didn't have access to, like maybe this was state-of-the-art equipment back then, but they had a white mule in the mine. Now, not the fact that it was white made it high-tech, but I guess you had a mule to help move the ore carts around, but I thought they had like those little pump thingies, like when two guys are on both sides. Again, everything I know about the world is from cartoons. But anyway, so I guess that's probably why the mule was down there. In 1902, they had this white mule deep in the mine. It was the 500-foot drop, 500 feet down in the mine. It was called the 5th level. And then an ore cart broke loose and like went down. Indiana Jones is sitting in it. They're like, no, Indiana, no. It goes down the track and hits the mule and breaks its back. And so the people there are like, that sucks. So they shoot the mule in the head, and they're like, well, you know, he was a good mule. He was a good mule. I don't know if they said that. They may have hated his guts for all I know. But miners began, so now like people just go about their business. But over time, on the 5th level, 500 feet down, they begin to smell the smell of fresh mule droppings. Hey, Barry, do you smell that? And the other guy's like, dude, whoa, man, lay off the sarsaparilla. And he's like, there's no sarsaparilla around here, and it's not me. And sarsaparilla doesn't even do that. Oh, it smells like mule droppings. My first question when I read that was, well, how do you know the difference between mule droppings and any other beast of burden's droppings? The other guy could have been like, no, that's definitely camel. The other guy's like, no, that's horse. Probably a female horse. And they're like, what? But anyways, so they would smell the smell of fresh mule droppings. It could have just been methane in the cave, but maybe they'd all be dead. And then people were like, well, whatever, we'll just get over it. It smells down here, but we'll keep working. But then people started like rounding a corner, and they would see the white mule standing at the end of this tunnel, which is terrifying. A ghost girl walking down a pathway in a college is not scary. It's kind of like, oh, that's kind of interesting. A ghost mule 500 feet into the earth is terrifying. And it got to the point that people wouldn't even work that level of the mine anymore. They're like, I'm not going down there. It smells, and I can deal with that. But then when I saw a ghost mule, like I'm working down there with my headlamp, and I turn, and there's just a mule at the end of a tunnel. No. So they weren't, basically that part of the mine no one would work. There was also an interesting part in that same mine where there was a 1,200-foot shaft. There's like a drop. And reportedly, someone one day picked up a rock and threw it down the shaft. And when it hit the ground, they heard someone go, hey, you! Now, that I think is 100% made up. Because, again, if you did that, after you left your own mule droppings in the mine, your first instinct would be to do it again, to see if it's replicated. But the mine is closed off now. They blew it up. You can't get in there. So who knows? But I think the mule story is creepy. However, now, though, what we want to do is we're still in the Bodie State Historic Park. We are going to Lucky Boy Mine. And in Lucky Boy Mine, we are going to play an interactive adventure like we have before. I saw Bandersnatch, by the way. It was okay. Kind of lost the novelty in a bit, but I'll give him an A for effort. I think they can perfect it, but we're doing our own version, but very, very low tech. This is after World War II, so fairly recent. Fairly recent. After World War II, I should be more specific. After World War II, Lucky Boy Mine was closed down, and the town that was built to support Lucky Boy Mine became a ghost town except for 6 people. So go ahead and pick a number between 1 and 6. Okay, so you got your number. That number will determine your fate in the course of this story. So you got your number in your head. You might have written it down, I don't know, because I told you to get your number 2 pencils earlier. You're like, well, I bought these, I gotta use them for something. Bodie State Historic Park, Lucky Boy Mine. The town is empty except for 6 people. Now, I know the name of one of them. One of the names has been recorded historically, the other 5 we don't know the names of, so I've had to give them names. Ed, that is a real name. His wife, Misha, a young Indian woman. And then there's 4 other members of the, so you have Ed and his wife, then you have 4 other members of the town. Tommy, Filbert, Mackenzie, and Jonas. They're just, I mean, it sounds like a boy band. Those are the names I came up with on the spot. I don't know many Indian women named Misha, but again, you just gotta cut me some slack, So, we're in the town surrounding Lucky Boy Mine. Spooky little town, spooky little ghost town. Only 6 people in a town, which would be creepy anyways. Ed was not a nice person. He was not known to be a nice person. And if you pick the number 4, you are Ed. So you're not a nice person. You're not, and you're like, Jason, that hurts my feelings. And I'm like, no. You might be a nice person in real life, but for the sake of the story, you're kind of a douchebag. Now, he's especially not nice to his wife, Misha, and if you picked 1, you're Misha. One night, he gets really, really mad. Ed has just had it with whatever minor thing Misha has done this time. He grabs his shotgun. So sorry, number 1. He grabs his shotgun, blows her chest off, just kills her. She doesn't die right away. It's a very slow death. Well, not relatively slow. I guess a slow death would be living to your 80s and die in your sleep, but she didn't just die immediately. It just blew part of her chest off and she bled out for a while and died. Now, there's no law. There's no law enforcement there. There's no cops. There's only 4 other people there, other than Ed and his now deceased wife. And 3 of them, Mackenzie, Tommy, and Filbert, could not let this injustice stand. They thought that the murder of his wife was just, had to be punished. So one night, they grab Ed. Let go of me, you varmint! What are you doing? Get over! They lead him down to a creek. There was a creek nearby the town. Now, they tie him up. What do you get to you? When I get loose of these ties and get my shotgun, I'm gonna show you stuff. They throw him. This might be one of the most inefficient ways to murder another human. They throw him into the creek to drown him. He doesn't drown, obviously, because he can just lift his head a couple centimeters, and he's fine. So then, there are 3 guys are standing around, and they're like, well, we didn't really think that one out. There's like a raging river 20 feet away, and they're like, we don't know why we took him to this creek, and we're kind of lazy, so we don't want to pick him back up. They then proceeded to kick him in the head, but not to kill him. They kicked him in the head until he became unconscious, so he would drown. Now, there's other ways to, 1, they could have just kicked him to death. 2, they could have just held him underwater, but the idea of kicking someone into unconsciousness so they will drown is so ineffective. But anyways, well, I guess not, because it works. Mackenzie, Filbert, Tommy all give each other, they all jump in the air, give each other a high five at the same time, even though the high five hadn't been invented. Fun fact, they invented the high five and the freeze frame when they all stood up there. And Ed had drowned. So if you pick number 4, you're a drowned victim. And it wasn't fun. You got kicked until you became unconscious. I wonder what he dreamt about. I wonder if he dreamt about not getting kicked in the head. He's like, this is a beautiful dream. I'm not getting kicked in the head anymore. 2 months go by. And these 4 dudes, now they have the town to themselves. I'm gonna make an assumption. Probably got a little gay. 4 guys in a town, in the middle of nowhere. You know, just hanging out, doing little after World War II dances. But the room's hot. It's heavy. And it's okay. You're just prospectors. You're just experimenting. It's okay. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. But anyways, so 2 months later, they're the only ones in town. And one night, Mackenzie's laying in bed. Jonas is next to him. No. So Mackenzie's laying in bed, and he sees the ghost of Ed, the frightening form of Ed, appear in front of him, shaking his fist silently at him. I imagine him thinking, "Why, you little?" and fades from view. And Mackenzie wakes up and was like, "Oh my god, what the hell was that?" Next day, he tells his friends, I saw Ed's ghost, and he was shaking his fist furiously at me. And the 2 other guys who helped murder him, Tommy and Filbert, were like, "I saw him last night too." Now at this point, Jonas is very, very happy he didn't take part in the murder of Ed. Very, very happy. He's just sitting there drinking his sarsaparilla. He's like, "I told you you shouldn't have kicked him until he drowned." And they're like, "Shut up, Jonas, we'll take you down to the creek too." And he's like, "Gulp." Short time later, Jonas is walking through the empty town, whistling a song, and he turns a corner and he sees the body of Tommy with a huge gash in his head. It's just split open. He turns to you and goes, "If you pick number 3, that's you." And then he just goes back to the saloon, drinks more sarsaparilla. So Tommy got his just head split open. Nobody in the town knew why. None of the 3 other people knew why. Maybe he fell. Maybe a bear karate chopped him. Nobody knew. Short time after that, Jonas is hanging out. He gets a phone call at home. Well, I guess they don't even need phones. They just yell across the street. All of a sudden, he hears Filbert go, "Jonas! Jonas, come here!" And Jonas is like, "Damn it. I had other stuff to do, but apparently I have to go over here." He goes over to Filbert's house. He sees Filbert's head. Here, let's make this dramatic. He walks into the house, all the lights are off, and there's a roaring fire. And he just sees the silhouette of a man hunched over the fire, and he's like, "Filbert? Filbert, are you okay?" And Filbert slowly turns towards him as the fire crackles. And Jonas goes, "Sounds like you're just crinkling paint." And his head is swelling up in front of Jonas. He has this massive hemorrhage. Like, you can just see the blood pouring out of his skull and brain, but it's not splitting the skin. His head is inflating like a balloon, and he turns to Jonas and goes, "Help me," and dies. And then Jonas turns to you and goes, "If you pick number 5, that was you." He goes back to the saloon. At this point, Jonas is having a real hard time telling the difference between fantasy and reality. He's like, "For some reason, I feel like I'm in a podcast in the year 2019. What's going on?" A short time after that, there's only 2 people left in town. There's Jonas and Mackenzie. And then one day, there's just Jonas. He's like, "That's weird. This town's even more deserted than it normally is. What's going on? There should be 2 people here." Mackenzie. His dog comes running up. He's like, "Oh, I forgot I named my dog Mackenzie, but I wasn't asking for you. Mackenzie!" His voice is just echoing through the town. "Mackenzie!" Mackenzie's body is never found. Jonas just kind of shrugs and he goes, if you pick number 2, you're never found. But I have my made-up way, because I don't want you to just be a missing person, because then you could be like, "Well, fine, I just went to Vegas." Ed grabs you and brings you into the Hell Realm, where pokes your eye out, pulls out your teeth, puts them in your eye socket, and gives it to a devil baby as a rattle. So that's you. So you would have much better off been having just a hemorrhage or your head split open. If you pick number 6, you're Jonas. You're the one who survived to tell the tale of the Lucky Boy Mine, and one of the most frightening examples of a ghost returning from the dead to kill his murderers. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. Twitter is @JasonO'Carpenter. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad you listened to it today. Have a great one, guys. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio Classics, where we listen to an old episode with a new intro. I know, it's pretty nifty, huh? Now, this week I was doing topics on conspiracy theories that I had come across, that I kind of stumbled across. And this is, I think, the best episode to end it on. Now, this episode has 3 really good stories. The second story is about a serial killer in Japan